awesome sauce. So you know all about the process and and what we need to do.
I
I hit the
do know
record
all
button
about the
because sometimes we get good material from the beginning.
Yeah, and it's funny because while so much about the media process has changed, I feel like there's this loop coming back to just the groundedness. I'm actually waiting for the moment where we go back to true journalism, which is a conversation for a
Yes.
whole other point in time. But just, what was it? I think it was it's not Hawaii Dragnet, where he says just the
Mm,
facts, just the
just
facts,
the
man,
facts.
just the facts, man. That's why we,
You talk about Dick Tracy days.
yeah, just the when look, when I was younger, much younger, and in my media courses, it was the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, sometimes how something
How?
happened. I used to pull copy AP wire off, and I knew things were shifting when I was in college. When I will not share this person's name on on the podcast, but you and I can have that off the record. But I used to produce for a particular entity that's known for shredding documents, and I'll just leave it there. And we would
Okay.
have to, if you know your history, you know where I'm going with that. Um, and we would have to pull copy for off the AP wire for that particular show. Um, and then write it with a certain perspective. So everybody gets the same copy. Now, normally
Yes.
what you do with copy is that you get the copy and then, the writing team, the interviewer, the journalist, the researchers, they're going and they're finding out, the blurb per se that AP has sent out to all the newsrooms. They're going to do their due diligence. They're going to do their
Correct.
questioning, their research, and then pr- um, presenting, I was going to say producing, but presenting what they have come up with, the information, what happened on this day, why it's important, why you need to know it, those sorts of things. It is the wild,
It,
wild west out
it,
here.
it, it is the wild, wild west, and the lie has become the truth, and the truth has become the lie. Listen, this is About This Life with your host, Anne Marie. About This Life is about taking a look at our beliefs because we have these patterns that we live in our lives, and sometimes they need changing. They need changing so we can thrive and so we can be our more authentic selves. My guest today is Heather Williams. Hi, Heather.
Hello, Anne Marie.
It is such a pleasure to have you on About This Life today.
It's a
And
pleasure to
Heather,
be
you
here.
are, well, thank you. Thank you. You are the creator of Journey to Forever Fit.
Journey
I
to
need that in
Forever
my
Fit. Yes,
life.
yes, we
I
all
need that in
do.
my life. Journey to Forever Fit. And Heather, you are here today and you are just going to walk us through some of that journey. And we're going to bring in a little bit of ancestry in here. There's this place I want to start with, Heather.
Mhm.
I want to start with menopause.
Oh Lord, child. Like, where them fans at?
With menopause. Do you travel with your own season too?
You know what, I do, but I have a very unique experience and perspective, excuse
Okay.
me, about menopause. And ironically, when I started on social media, I started, excuse me, um,
Hmm.
the first time, my first Instagram page my daughter's name is Gabrielle. My husband and I were trying to figure out how we were going to navigate this middle schooler who wanted to do social media.
Okay.
And so while trying to navigate her through social media, one of the things that we decided to do is that one of us will follow her one place and the other one will follow her another place. So my private Instagram is at Gabby's mom. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Gabby's mom.
and
Okay.
then my second um, page was called Pardon My Hysteria. Because
Mm, mm, mm.
when I was preparing to have a hysterectomy,
Mm.
I couldn't find any
Wow.
information for a woman who had my level of athleticism, who had my level of fitness going into surgery. And although I had worked with clients through hip surgery, shoulders, knees, backs,
Wow.
postpartum cesareans, I also know that, a hysterectomy is very different. And just as a quick
Okay.
aside, I was still thinking about the hysterectomy that my mother and her sisters had. And theirs were for fibroids. Mine was to interrupt precancerous cells from growing. I just knew that, okay, my husband and I were at the point where we have one child, we've managed along, and at the age, so I had my hysterectomy at 50, about 4 or 5 months after my, maybe closer to 6 months after my 50th birthday. I had a whole 60-day plan and regimen that I put myself on so I wouldn't gain any weight, but also so I could um, recover in a time frame that made sense for me, a person who has a hard time sitting still. Um,
Absolutely. And Heather, I want to slow you down for a moment because you drop so you drive the lot on us. And I need to unpack this.
okay, all right,
Okay, because we are way beyond the night sweats at this point.
okay,
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 in terms of conversation, and I should say that you are a certified wellness trainer as well. We will get into what you are doing in terms of your whole wellness journey, but right now you've introduced this concept of hysterectomy. First of
yeah.
all, what is a hysterectomy? Let's educate ourselves.
So a hysterectomy is just removing. Please do not make me use the medical term for the whole kit and
Hmm.
caboodle because I never pronounce it right. But a hysterectomy has become a generic overturn. It's kind of like when you say, "Can you hand me a Kleenex?" and it just means a
Hmm.
tissue. But an actual
Right.
hysterectomy is removing the uterus. And
Okay.
I opted to remove. I still have my ovaries, hence the flashes and the sweats and all that.
Yeah.
But honestly, I actually started having night sweats in my 20s, and now I also had some reproductive challenges known early on, primarily because I have a family predisposition for fibroids,
Hmm.
but I never had fibroids. And I was misdiagnosed with polycystic ovaries without having any of the other symptoms. What I actually had what is called amenorrhea. It's just an absence of a period. I had low body fat. I was a dancer to a competitive cheerleader, very muscular, low body
Some
fat.
of us would think that's a blessing, but I
It
guess it
is and
isn't.
it isn't because I would still, my body would produce and release eggs, but the lining of the uterus was not shedding or not shedding
Mm.
consistently. So then
Was it shedding internally?
you know what? I don't fully understand that. I
Okay.
don't believe it to be as such. I have been told that it's almost as if over time the eggs will dissipate. But then there were times that I had fibroids in places where they would have assumed eggs would have been. So uh, I don't have clarity around um, where
Did
they
you have
went.
cramping?
So
It sounds painful.
I would have cramps during ovulation, but that would be the only time. Or I'd have cramps at the beginning, like the first day, first couple of hours of my cycle, and that was it. I never had any, I did not have a heavy discomfort, no back pain or anything like that. But would have long periods without having a period.
Oh
I got
my
a period when I
goodness.
was 12. I never had another one until I was 14.
Oh my goodness. And then you in your statement you said it's not like your mom's hysterectomy.
It's not
Oh, there
like
was a car. What was that Pontiac? This isn't your parents' Pontiac. That's what
no,
popped in my
it's
mind.
very
So
different.
mom's hysterectomy, say that again, was for
So my mother's hysterectomy and her sisters were for heavy heavy cycles. I'm talking about, 13, 14 days long. Okay. So there's that. And the actual surgery of the hysterectomy, they were cutting and gutting. splitting you up
Almost
one
like
side of the
endometriosis, almost like that in terms of
body.
that discharge. But yours was to preventative, to prevent
Was
cancer.
preventative. And when I got off, I actually sent, I wish I had the text message. I actually sent out a text. I didn't tell anybody. I mean, my daughter knew, my husband knew,
Hmm.
obviously. And I didn't tell anybody I was having, oh, and HR at my job where I was working at the time, obviously they needed to know why I needed this amount of time off. But that was it. And it was really hard because I was teaching a lot of classes, and I was the senior fitness director, so I'm rescheduling a lot. And I was like, you know what, I'm just burned out right now, I need to take a sabbatical. I didn't want the woe was me, but more importantly, I'm a science girl, and so I was watching surgeries. I knew that when I went into the surgeon, um, I knew the exact type of procedure I wanted. Like I was watching avatars, surgeries on YouTube. My GYN at the time was one of my clients. I'd watched some of her surgeries. Like I was really into it. So I didn't want a lot of background noise on from people telling me what
Right.
what the procedure would look like. And it was. I mean, I was in and out. I mean, it was. Yeah,
And,
I think my
and
colonoscopy may have taken longer than my hysterectomy.
but you said there's an important difference because you are physically fit, have been physically fit your entire life, and you wanted to be sure that the procedure that you received would be able to accommodate, oh, take into consideration your body.
Take in consideration my body.
And there was nothing out there.
It was hard because a lot of what I was seeing was what I knew as as a certified personal trainer, as a fitness coach. We get the ACOG, American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology. We get their information. We get their protocols.
Hmm.
There's a lot that we're given in our certifications, but it's also baseline. And most of the
Yes.
statistics are baseline, which is why it's important for women and men, but definitely for women, to be their own best advocates and ask questions and do their research. My dad, who is deceased, but I quote him often with this, used to tell me, never ask a question that you don't already have the answer for.
Answer for it.
And
Yes.
I remember being a child going, Daddy, that doesn't even make sense. Like if I needed to ask, if I had the answer, why am I asking the question? What he was encouraging me to do was to be able to have enough information going in. So not only am I asking the question, I'm asking the question that will give me the information that I need, which
Yes.
means there has to be something on my part. So I always tell my clients, you want to do the same thing. You want to be your best advocate. You want to ask as many questions as possible and then ask another question and ask the follow-up. You want to walk out of the room knowing that when you are under and you're going under a certain procedure, that you can rest assured going in to that. And so I just wasn't finding anything. I know that when my mother had
And
double.
a lot of people don't do that. And that's important to know because if you're not feeling well and you're going to receive some health care, there's almost like a brain fog that you have,
Yeah,
separate from menopause.
separate from menopause.
Just separate from menopause. Just trust us. There's a brain
Way
fog
separate
you
from menopause.
experience, and it's you're taking in this whole experience of being in a medical setting, and you understand you have to go through a procedure, and sometimes you're like trusting what the doctor's telling you. Okay, yes. Okay, yes. We trust they're telling us the truth in our best interest, and that's not always the case.
Right. But even if they are, and even when they are, it's still your body.
Body.
And we can't, take political signs and march around and protest and raise money for protests about reproductive health and body autonomy and then still not take that ownership of our body. Because that's what the
Yes.
fullness of body autonomy looks like. It looks like, okay, you know what? I mean, I've walked out of doctors' offices. I'm probably, my GYN again, who is a former client of mine, tells me all the time, she's like, Heather, you a handful coming into the the office. But you're not just going, like when I go into an office, I don't have them weigh me. You're not weighing me properly. And insurance companies still will ding you for weight. Under the Affordable Health Care Act, they're not supposed to.
Mm.
But there are some ways that they do. Okay. And how I've been able to prove that is that when the nurse looks down at a chart, because this has actually happened to me once, nurse looked down at a chart and she goes,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I see you've gained 5 pounds this year." And I was
Mm-hmm.
really excited about that 5 pounds because I was running so much at the time that I was losing muscle. And I knew it was 5 pounds of muscle. I knew what my body fat was because I'd been hydro weighed.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And then I had
Okay.
hereditary skin caliper, so I knew what my body. And she wants to give me this lecture, and so Heather being Heather, I said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna strip down, and then you're gonna weigh me. And the only scales were in the lobby, so I had just come from the gym, and I had on a trainer t-shirt with a sports bra, a tennis skirt, and the little tennis shorts. And I stripped down to the little jog bra and the shorts, and I said, now weigh me, because I was trying to tell her that what I had on was probably about 3, 4, 5-ish pounds, and she didn't want to. She didn't believe me. It was a little under 4 pounds, and she was surprised. I said every little a pound counts, not to make anybody obsessive, but if somebody's being medicated, if somebody has to go under anesthesia,
Yes.
if your health insurance needs to know where your weight is, if that weight is, the new buzz phrase in the medical industry is
Hmm.
diabesity, a combination of
Yes.
type 2 diabetes and obesity. That counts. Again, we're not trying to body shame. We're not trying to make women feel a certain kind of way about whatever those three numbers are. It's just data, but it's how that data is used. And this woman never looked at me.
Because she
And
was
I'm
busy looking at the charts. Yes.
And that's
In
when
terms of making
they
eye
input the
contact.
data to make a decision about you. So that's just another example of how you have to advocate for yourself. I always blame my parents. I'm an only child to two alpha parents, so I'm like, I was going to be in
Okay.
your face.
You, you didn't have a choice.
I have a choice,
Well, mom, dad, look, she's carrying on the
right?
legacy. But there are so many other things um, in terms of menopause. And one of the things that I discovered, for example, I've been introduced to, should I call her Mr. or Ms. Sciatica? I'm just like, are you kidding me? That pain that you get as you're getting older and the disc in your spine is bulging. So the phrase pain in the butt is really literal. Like, who knew?
Now,
Because the pinched nerves or the bulging disc, the nerves wind down through your butt, through your
mhm.
buttocks, and down your legs. What were you gonna say?
Two things. So one of the things as we were talking about menopause, I would love every woman listening to our conversation
Hmm.
to understand your menopause is exactly what you choose it to be. Meaning,
Okay.
okay, so I'm not a card player in the sense that I don't know how to play. I know I should give up my black card for saying this.
You
I
don't
don't
know how
play
to play
spades.
spades.
I said it. Okay, I don't play spades.
I don't know how to
Whatever.
play
Okay,
spades either.
judge. Okay, I was gonna say judge me later. But I do play a mean game of Uno. Okay, but
Okay.
no matter whether it's blackjack, spade, bid, whist, poker, whatever, you play the hand that's dealt you. You look at your cards and you say, okay, this is the hand I've been dealt. What is in my control, and how when I throw this card down, what's going to put me in the best position to stay in the best position? That's your menopause attitude. That should actually be the attitude that you have, because again, the same way my my mother and her sisters, their hysterectomy scars, they're cut up one side of their body or not. They went through my belly button. I have two slits right here. You don't
Hmm.
see anything the way they're doing the surgery. So I made a decision that I didn't want to give up Heather because I was going to have a hysterectomy. I didn't want to give up Heather, the energy, the vibrance, the zeal for life, because I at some point in time was going to, I was going to wake up the next morning and be, for all intent and purposes, in menopause. That
So
is a
here's
mind.
our mindset shift,
That's a
because
mindset.
that this is mindset stuff.
Hmm.
Because you're saying make it what you want it to
What
be.
you want it to
And
be.
so, and who you want to be. That's a mindset shift, because it's like poor me, you know? So we're moving from poor me to, okay, I'm going through this season of my life, and these are the things that I can do. In terms of
So
the
with the
average,
flash is to that point. These are to your point. These are the things that I can do. So when I am, especially for the younger clients that I have that are perimenopausal,
mm-hmm,
one of the things that we start looking at is diet. Now, I don't use diet because it literally is a four-letter word. There are four letters that spell the word diet, but it's also a four-letter word, meaning I think it's a little profane. So when I say diet, I'm talking about the way we feed and fuel our body. I'm not talking about
yes.
deprivation and restriction. Okay. So one of the things that I do is I have them go through their diet and and start looking at what is most likely from seasonings to alcohol to
Mm-hmm.
caffeine to start shifting your body temperature. Now, once you become aware of that, once you have that information, once you have that data, then you can take it to the next step. Do I want to cut it out? Do I want to cut it back? And what do either of those things look like? So all the way through, you are controlling or you are playing the hand that you've been dealt.
Dealt with, and trying to control the outcome. What's the difference between intention and action? Because I can sit here and say, Heather, I want to be healthy. Heather, I want some energy back in my life. I have long days, and I want to get my jam back, or what have you. Um, but sometimes energy is fading. So is it my intention or is it my action? How do I get
I
there?
don't think it's either.
What is it then?
I
Help.
think it's lack of two things, lack of alignment and lack of value. So when I work with
Mm,
my clients, we talk about your actions have to have intention. You have to be intentional with the things that you do. It's like when
hmm
you're dating. I'm going to speak, obviously, I'm a woman, so I'm going to speak from a woman's perspective. But when I'm dating, my love language may be like, boo, before I said I was your boo and you said you were my boo, you was blowing up my phone. Why you not blowing up my phone no more? Now what is your intention? Because he was blowing up my phone with intention when he was trying to catch
Yeah,
me.
get you.
Right, but now the action has shifted. So I'm like, well, what is the intention? So your actions there has to be an intention behind it. But the bigger picture is, let's start with value. So in social
Mm,
media or in life, let me rephrase that, in life coaching and wellness coaching and health coaching that comes up on social
yes.
media, that shows up on
Yes.
social media, we always hear, you have to understand your why, clarify your why, why. Yes. But once you
Uh,
understand your why, do you value the answer? Do you value the why? Do you value the reason why you're on a weight loss journey? Do you value the reason why? And when I work, I have a 6-week coaching program that I do, and
hmm
the second session is all about the why. So it's not enough for you to tell me, Heather, my doctor said I
Yes.
want to but my doctor wants me to lose 10 pounds. I'm like, so what's that got to do with me and you? And I've had people go, wait, what? Yeah,
hmm
because that's your doctor's 10 pounds. What do you want? What do you need? And then we start breaking down that why, and then it becomes concrete. Oh, well, my daughter's pregnant. And so I want to know, I want to be able to get down and up and down off the floor with ease with my grandchild. I want to know that I can carry my grandchildren around the house. I want to be able to pick them up. I want to be able to care for them. I want to be
Yes.
able to, roll out of bed and, even though I have some arthritis, just not feel the way I do when I roll out of bed. Now we're starting to shift what the goal is. So it's not just about the 10 pounds being less on the scale. That 10 pounds represents these things that you are physically not capable of doing in this moment. The value is, how can I become physically able to do all of those things? That's very different than I just want to lose 10 pounds.
That is very different. And I can also say to you, it speaks to patterns and patterns that we learn as children, because sometimes eating or overeating can be connected to like our comfort food.
Mhm.
And we're trying to satiate a need that we have within. And once you find out what the need is, then you can address it and make decisions and click from there. So it's definitely patterns in our subconscious, and we're bringing it to a conscious level so we can make choices.
And to your point, with that example, I always have to preface this by saying, when Dr. Phil was sane,
I used to like him until now,
girl, so
but
did
but
I.
but I we can't.
Okay, but one of the things that he would talk about, one of his two Dr. Philisms, one was, how's that working for you? How's that working for you?
Hmm. Hmm.
And the
I
other
remember.
one was that you don't change behaviors, you replace habits. So, for example, when I work with emotional eaters, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a clinical
Hmm.
psychologist, but when I work with people who are emotional eaters, one of the things, there's a lot of things that I talk about, having them take back to their therapist. But also one of the things that we incorporate is, okay, so you eat out of boredom. But then you
Hmm.
say, when you eat out of boredom, that but you're not getting enough fruits and vegetables. So how about this? Since you've already conditioned your body to snack in these 2 or 3 intervals in a day, let's just change what you snack.
Right,
So now we're not
right.
taking this habit. We're taking this habit that we've already conditioned ourselves for, and there's probably so much, to your point about patterns. There's so much in that. Instead of sitting here and trying to unpack that and fighting against the grain, where you're already mechanically eating at these intervals. At 3 o'clock, when I come back from that daily meeting with my team, I reach into my desk. So why aren't we reaching into our desk and have some carrots? Let's have some this. Let's have a rice cake. You know what I mean? So you can
I
start.
guess carrots don't sound as good as a chocolate chip cookie.
Okay, but then here, you know how you have your chocolate chip cookie?
Yes, tell me how we have our chocolate chip cookie.
So you cut it in quarters.
The
There you go.
cookie.
There you go. It's the same thing we do with our children. When our kids are little and they want something, we cut it in half. We cut it in
Hmm.
fours. Johnny, Janie, here, here's your cookie. And then we almost fake them out, because we'll take a full cookie, we'll cut it in fours, and we'll cut a quarter of it and cut it in half. And now they think they have 2 pieces
Right,
because they
right.
really want the quantity. Think about it. They're not even thinking about so much the size until they have something to compare with another person.
Yes.
But we've tricked them to think that they're getting 2 cookies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
So we have to
To your
train our
point about
brain.
pattern. The pattern and the habit is already there. We just haven't poured that, or applied it to ourselves. But
And
any
see,
parent or any child caregiver has
hmm
done that for a child.
hmm
Hmm.
So Heather, I want to get into this with you because you mentioned that you see our ancestors as the blueprint for humanity. What do you mean by that?
So I think that, without making the conversation, I'm a little bit of a political junkie, so I'll try not to use.
Wow.
I'll try
Who
not
could
to.
tell?
I'll try not to delve too far into politics, but I think, when I think of ancestors, and so my grandmother passed in September when she was 103, from
Yes.
Danville, Virginia.
Longevity.
Longevity. But with that longevity, while her body failed her, her mind had not. So she was a wealth of information. There's a lot that my cousins, my mother, because I'm speaking of my mother's mother, my mother's siblings, their kids, extended family members
Yeah.
have learned. We call her Mama. From some people call her Mama Sloan or Mom Sloan. From Mama, there are a lot of lessons, even how to deal with this and manage this now. So I
Hmm.
think, what is it? Nothing is no, there's nothing new under.
Under the sun. Yeah.
And so if we pull back into those conversations, and when I say ancestors, I'm not just talking about the family information. Although I use my grandmother because she lived for 100 plus years.
103.
Had she lived
Hmm.
past September 2nd when she passed, November 2nd would have been her 104th birthday. That is a living ancestry. But my mother is also 82. And so the dialogues and the conversation and how did you get through this and how did you get through that and how did you manage this, particularly as Black people and as Black women. I mean, so much of what, yes, we want people to have health insurance. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned about this thing that, because
Yeah.
we pay for their health insurance. Let's just
Yes.
keep that in mind.
Yeah.
We're paying for them to have what they don't want to give us.
Yes.
And they're supposed to be working for us. So
Yes.
keeping that in mind as a frame of reference. But there's a point in time where Black people didn't have health insurance. We had doctors, and you went to the doctor and you paid the doctor direct, and you had an account with the doctor.
Yes.
And so that means that there's a generation of people who are still alive who would love to share that information, because
Hmm.
that blueprint is going to make sure. So I'm Gen X, my daughter is Gen Z. Is going to make certain that Gen X is preparing Gen Z for whatever comes ahead.
We've lost some of that, though. We've lost some of that community, that village.
Did we
Uh,
lose it or did we give it away?
Both.
I think we gave it away.
I think it's both. I would say we've lost it because the stories are not passed
Fair.
from generation to
Generation to
generation
generation. That's
anymore.
fair.
And then we live far apart, like, for careers and jobs and so forth. We're no longer, raised or coming up in the same neighborhoods, or yeah, I remember, cousins would pile into one house, and things of that sort. So we've lost connection with one another. But explain the way in which you mean it in terms of we gave it away.
So I think, and I agree with you. And so before I answer that, I just want to preface it by saying my statements are not to blame, but I would encourage anybody listening to be willing to shift the way
Yes.
it is approached. So yes, we have moved away, but human beings have always been transient.
Hmm.
So there's, is the glass half full or half empty? It just depends on your perspective when you're looking at the glass. So with that understanding, we have, where is it? I don't have my phone near me. I thought I had my phone near me. I'm gonna
Hmm.
hold up my other iPad. Oh, here's my phone.
Okay.
This right here. Do you know how much information you can share and
Mm.
receive and give? Our daughter lives in New York now. I'm married to a New Yorker, but she lives in.
Shout out to New York, Brooklyn.
Okay, so she's living in the Greenwich Village, and my husband is from the Bronx. He went to the Bronx School of, what is it? Bronx School of Science and Technology.
Yes, science
Yeah.
and tech. I was
Okay.
John Dewey, Brooklyn. Okay,
Yeah.
come on.
So yes. So New York, and I have my in-laws still live in New York, but our daughter Gabrielle, she FaceTimes us. We FaceTime. The two of us will FaceTime my mother when my grandmother was alive and more active. We
Hmm.
would FaceTime with her. On my husband's side of the family, they started a family website. So
Yes.
my
Yes.
my father-in-law is one of 9 children, and every summer they do this week long. This year will be the 28th anniversary of this week long. No, I'm sorry. 2026 will be the 28th anniversary of a week long Williams family vacation. Very separate from the family reunions that they do.
Hmm.
But the siblings with their spouses and children and grandchildren, we get together. We celebrate Juneteenth because it's normally around there. Well, actually, next year we're doing it in
Yes.
July again. We celebrate Father's Day on the years that it's been there. We celebrate anybody who's had a summer birthday or who has graduated. We take pictures. And then for the 25th, one of the cousins who's a webmaster said, let's do a website. So now we are creating this digital document that
Living
for
history.
generations to come forward, that we don't have all of the stories, but we have enough in what we remember in this moment to send forward. And so that those things can, I mean, if you think about, I said that to someone, was like, oh my gosh, Heather, I just don't know if I even have the time. I'm like, girl, as much content that you put on the social media, are you really trying to tell me and convince me that you don't have that you don't have the time? And she goes, oh, well, since you put it like that, I guess you're right. Yes. So it's just a matter of just seeing
I
it
think about the
different.
recipes, and I think about, the new
Yes.
babies who are being born in this day and age, and they don't know back when, or life back on the island. My family is from the Caribbean, so
Okay.
it's like,
Yes.
they don't know those stories. And
I have
I'm
a
like, go
to your
ahead.
point about life back on the Caribbean, I have a girlfriend who was Russian born. She didn't learn English until she came to the States, and she came to the States and she was divorced and remarried, and she and her husband, they have a daughter, and every year, every summer. Now,
Mm-hmm.
her daughter's first language is Russian. But she wanted her to be able to speak Russian. She didn't want her to be able to, she wanted her to be able to read it and write it. But the only way you could do that is you got to go to Russia. So from the
Yes.
time her daughter was born all the way through high school, every summer, bare minimum 5 weeks, Sasha was
Yes.
in Russia.
Yes.
And that's how she knows about her not just the cultural and ethnic difference from being a
Mm-hmm.
Russian American, but also her family's culture. Because there's culture and then there's the culture within your family. Yeah, that's how
Yes.
she learned it
So
every
what you're
summer.
trying to say to us, Heather, we need to go back home, wherever
Uh,
home is.
no, 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 no. Wait. I want to make it clear because I'm not one of the MAGA people. I'm not sending you anywhere.
Well,
I'm
go back
saying,
home to visit.
I'm saying yes. Yes, if you have the ability, and home could be, my husband talks about, and my father-in-law also talk about being children and going back to South Carolina
Mm-hmm.
and spending the
Hmm.
summer with the
And
grandparents.
wasn't that used to be a tradition,
Yes,
in terms of the African American family, that you would send the kids home for the summer once school was
yeah,
out? They went back to grandma's and pops' homes, and usually in the country.
yeah.
And does that even go exist
I think
anymore?
it does. Even if I look at it from the perspective that I grew up in Pittsburgh, and my both sets of grandparents were in Pittsburgh, and my maternal great grandparents were alive. So my maternal great grandmother, my grandmother's mother, lived until my senior year of high school, and my great grandfather, her husband, lived until just a little bit past my 21st birthday. And
Yes.
so, even though we all grew up in Pittsburgh close, it was nothing for me to go spend a weekend or over the summer, weeks at a time, with my
Mm.
grandparents or my great grandparents, just to have a different perspective, influence, relationship. Probably also give
Yes.
my parents a little bit of a breather too, but doing things, we call it my great grandparents, Nana and Papa, doing things Nana and Papa's way. And
Yes.
so that's also probably the reason why I see, as I'm saying that, tying this back in, is probably the reason why I also see menopause differently. Because those women
Hmm.
had to be in menopause, now that I'm thinking about it, but they were always involved, always doing, always sharp, always,
Always vibrant,
always
always moving.
vibrant. Yes. And I remember, now that I say that, it's so funny. That just triggered this memory. I remember not knowing my grandmother, my great grandmother, wore wigs.
Hmm.
I never knew that. Okay. And I don't know what we were getting dressed for. And so Nana says to me, I was just tall enough to reach up. Said, baby, reach up and get Nana's wig. I'm like, well. where's Nana's wig? And it was in a hat box. And she had on a
Yes.
bonnet, like a scarf or a bonnet or something. And I remember her taking her scarf off, and she had these braids down to here. Okay. And then she
Mm,
pinned up the braids. And I said, Nana, you have all this hair. And she said,
yeah.
girl, you she said, yes, but sometimes Nana gets the sweats. And that's why I wear my
Mm.
wigs. Remember that until this moment. But yes, but I saw
Amazing.
their vibrancy. Now I don't know what they shared in their sewing circles with the girlfriends, but I still saw them in their 50s. Because you figure if I were 10, which would have made my mother 36, her mother
Hmm.
56, and so that would have made my great grandmother, somewhere in
Yes.
her 50s. Yeah.
As you
Oh,
speak this, and as you speak this truth, it occurs to me everything you're describing is all part of wellness. It's
yes.
all part of our emotional, mental, and even physical wellness, that connection that we have to family, to culture. So that's what makes us unique as well. It's not just about going to a gym.
Right.
It's not just about that. The fact that I can be connected to family is part of wellness and mental health. Tell us about your coaching business before
Before,
we go. So
okay,
tell us
before,
about your 6 week.
so before we jump into the 6 week, you said something in the interview that you sent with me. I think it's you shared with me rest, resilience, and I can't remember. There's a
I don't
third
even
one.
remember.
Okay,
That's so
but you sent
many.
it to me, and I would, as I mentioned to you before you press record, I listened to it again today, and one of the things that both you and the young woman spoke about was, do you need to go to the gym, and what does that look like? So I'm gonna
Yes,
tie that into how I coach. Um,
absolutely.
so about 20 years ago, if you would have said 20 years ago, I was 36. So yes, I think early middle 30s, I would have said to you, if you would have asked me, Heather, do I need to work out every day? My pad knee jerk ass would have been like, "Psst, you eat every day."
Mm-hmm.
That was my answer. That was my answer because that was what the industry was driving. Now, when someone asks me if they need to work out every day, my answer is slightly different. And that answer is you need to move your body every day.
Every day. Move, no matter what.
So I encourage, you know, some type of aerobic cardiovascular activity structure 3 times a week. For women who I'm going to say 40 moving forward, you have to have some type of strength training 3 times a week. So I would say that could be weights, kettlebells, bands, Pilates, body weight yoga, not just restorative yoga, but like a hatha yoga, Ashtanga, which is a power yoga, Bikram, which is in the heat. Well, it's in a heated room. Um,
Yeah.
so those types of movement. And then you have your
Hold
daily.
on, hold on. Because we need to put a pin on
Mhm.
strength. Because as someone who's going through menopause and experiencing it, it's your bones, the brittleness, and it's just like if I can tell a younger person today, it would be you need strength as part of your movement. It's
Yes.
absolutely
Well, you
essential. So to keep you because the falls become real
well
and
not
all of
even
that.
just that, but for bone density, you're absolutely right. Because as we lose estrogen and as our entire
Hmm.
hormone panel shift, we our bones wear and tear. They become
Yes.
brittle if we're not careful. If you have a genetic predisposition for osteopenia or osteoporosis, if you
Mm,
are lacking in vitamin D, particularly natural vitamin D, when I run
yes.
outside, I do not, and I have been, and my dermatologist, who used to be a client of mine, has approved this. For the first 15, 20 minutes of a run outside, I don't apply sunscreen.
Hmm.
I want that natural vitamin D. Then
Hmm.
and I use that as a 15-minute, 20-minute max. warm up, spray myself down, and then I'm off and running.
Yes.
Okay.
You
And
need to take your vitamin D. I remember for years my doctor was telling me I was vitamin D deficient,
yeah,
but he didn't explain to me the significance and the impact. I know it now.
yes, yeah.
But get your vitamin D.
Get your vitamin, get your vitamin D. So there's that um, there's that part to one's I'm going to say wellness
Yes,
journey and what that looks like. And again, I mean, you to the strength part, you can lift weights. I mean, my daughter lifts weights, so you can lift weights early on. But if you're not doing some type of weight bearing resistant work by the time you're 40, you need to. Also, too, it improves your metabolic rate and it improves
yes,
your heart rate. So there's all these other benefits to it, but definitely the bone density is it's definitely critical. And again, you don't have to live in a gym. And there are times now the classes that I teach are 45 minutes to an hour, but I have a library online of workouts that are 15, 20 minutes, full body.
absolutely, absolutely. So you were saying you have to move your body, you have to do some form of strength. What else do you need?
So you want I don't want to say a clean diet. You want a diet that aligns with who you are, not who you long to be, but who you are right in the here and now. And then we can address the goal of being a vegetarian or being plant-based or what have you. But if you don't, and what I mean by diet now, if you, most people, here's what most people do. I don't want to eat meat anymore. So they stop eating meat,
Hmm.
but they eat all these other things. And I'm like, okay, but your
Until
body.
that pork chop, that good pork chop
Okay,
comes.
but my thing is not even about the giving. When you give up the plant-based, I mean, when you give up the meat, where are you getting your protein? Because protein
Yeah,
is so key. Where are you getting your protein? What type of fat are you getting? Are your carbs truly your energy source? So there's a thought process to the way we eat. It's not a emotional, I'm just sick of, the way my body looks, which on
right,
a whole other,
right.
ladies, if you can hear me, I need you to screen record this right now. Here's what I'm going to tell you about wearing something. Wear what you want. If they make it in your size, wear it. If you are concerned about wearing it because somebody's going to talk about you, girl, they don't talk about you
Not you
anyway.
anyway.
Wear it. Wear it. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. So you are waiting for this perfect moment to wear something. And the reason why I say that is because we have all seen that person and gone, ooh, you left the
Mm,
house that way, and they feeling good. And they're vibrant and they're doing their thing and they have this big energy. Think of somebody like a Lizzo. You know,
yeah.
now I'm not saying that you're supposed to have your hind parts out at the Lakers game. That's not what I'm saying. But there's a level of unapologetic body confidence that even some thinner women don't have. So it's not so much, I don't want women to think that they can't have their lives or live their lives until they get to this particular size or weight on the scale or feeling
Right.
comfortable. The flip side of that, you know, while you're wearing it and feeling comfortable, your health is not external, it's internal. So you also want to make certain that whether your size is here or here, what's your blood saying? What's your urine saying? What's your hormones doing? How regular are your bowel movements? Like how much water are you intaking? What's sleep?
And all of that is part of wellness.
It is
And you
wellness.
coach people through this.
Yes.
And so definitely, how do people get in touch with you?
So I have I'm taking a of a
Oh,
social
great.
little bit of a social media break, but my Instagram is Instagram Journey to Forever Fit, and that's the word journey, the number two, the number four, ever fit, and that'll give you an idea of just how I would show up in a session. If this hasn't shown you how I would show up in a session, I mean, there's content that is
Hmm.
I think my last actual post with consistency was probably the end of September. I just felt like I needed to take a little bit of a
A,
breather.
A
Take a breather.
Selah,
Selah,
Selah.
yes.
Take a Selah.
Yes. You know what? And if Selah was good for Howard John, Pastor Howard John Wesley, then Selah is good for the rest
Do
of us.
you go to Alfred Street?
E- e- every Sunday on my iPad. But anyway,
Alfred Street is my church.
okay. So then, yes, you know Selah
So
very
I know
well.
Sela.
Oh,
In
and
fact,
speaking of,
I write for I'm in DG 33, so I write for the newsletter
okay,
as
okay. So
well.
after this, we would need to talk because I've been trying to get in touch with someone because I want to do some consulting for Seek.
For Seek, which is coming up
It's
in a
coming
couple
up,
of
yes.
months.
Um,
Yes,
but
but
But anyway, so the other way
yeah,
is my website. If you want to try a class, I teach 5 live Zoom classes a week, and then I have a 14-day trial on my website, and my website is www.journeytoforeverfit.com, and then I think I gave you an email address, which is Heather
absolutely.
at
And we'll put it in the show notes.
Yes. And it's Heather at journeytoforeverfit.com. And I would say that my coaching philosophy is when someone is in my presence, well, whether I'm doing a traditional personal training one-on-one with someone, if I am taking them through some fitness and wellness coaching, or even if they just show up to do, today I taught a class called Power Pump. I
Hmm.
want you, anytime that you encounter me, that when it comes to physical movement, when it comes to your wellness and fitness goals, that you feel it is all tangible and possible. And
Tangible,
possible.
possible, and
I want to make it,
accessible.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, Heather Williams, it has been a joy to talk with you and to
Thank
have you on the
you.
show. You have dropped some wisdom. You have helped us to see that it's alignment and values
Alignment and value.
that speaks to our wellness journey. And
And
when we think about
may I
being,
just add one more thing?
Mhm.
Here's a little something I encourage the audience to do. I want you to take us into your kitchen with you. And I want you to think of all the places where you have said in your life, day, week, if they ask me to do one more thing, I'm so tired of giving everybody my energy. I need you to be in that, just bear with me for a moment. I need you to be in that frame of mind. So pick us up, go into the kitchen and do that. Now, set us down on your counter. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to turn on the water in your sink. Let it
Mhm.
run. Okay? The water is now running. Reach up into your cabinet. You need 2 things. I want you to have a cup and a saucer. So here is the saucer, here is the cup. Now, I want you to think about all the things that you want. You're going to slide that cup and saucer under the water, under the
Water.
running water. And as the water fills the cup, everything you want, whether that is a different job, whether that is restful sleep, whether that is no sweats, whether that is 10 pounds, whether that is lowering your medication, whatever it is you want. If you need more help, if you want to be empowered to say no, one of the things that I also teach is, and for people who feel guilty about saying no, I teach them what yes boundaries are. Whatever it is you want, you're going to let that cup fill up. And you're going to keep saying it as the cup runneth over into the saucer. When the saucer fills up, shut the water off. Now, everything in the cup is yours. Everything in the saucer is theirs. Why? Because you filled your cup up so much it overflowed that you have something to give away and still have something for yourself.
And living in a place of abundance as opposed to scarcity.
My
I
mantra
got
is
you.
my
I
mantra
got
is
you,
the
sister.
23rd Psalm. Yes.
So we're talking about an abundant life, an
An
abundant
abundant
life.
life.
So everyone, take us with you into
Take
your
us with
kitchen
you.
and run that water. Get the cup and the
And do
saucer.
not send us your
Okay.
water bill.
Yes, and start living from an abundant life.
Yes.
I just value you and the
Thank you
pearls of
so
wisdom
much.
that you have dropped today
I
for us. So
appreciate that.
I
Thank
thank
you.
you.
And I'm so
Want
happy
our
to be
viewers
here.
to please, 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 if you would, just go ahead and like the
Yes.
show.
And
Go ahead,
subscribe.
subscribe, and then go ahead and share it to somebody who needs to hear it. I am Anne Marie, host of About This Life, where we are changing our lives one day at a time. Thank you so much.